trip to the countryside and immediately noticed something strange. The names of the local shops were strikingly similar to those of her assistant standing beside her. This made her start to wonder, could the broke assistant who followed her for 3 years actually be a hidden rich heir? But what she never expected was that this accidental trip would completely change the course of her life. Margaret is a top editor at a major newspaper, earning $1 million a year. Her status in the company is unmatched, just one step below the CEO. But because of her cold, domineering attitude, employees secretly call her the Witch. Andrew, on the other hand, is just an ordinary assistant. Every day he runs around non-stop just to keep up with work. He has to follow Margaret like a shadow, and even wakes up at dawn to search 10 different streets for her favorite coffee. If he brings the wrong one, Margaret will immediately make him work overtime to make up for it. And this is how Andrew has worked with her for 3 long years. During these years, he barely had any time off.
I need you around this weekend to help review his files and his manuscripts.
This weekend?
You have a problem with that?
No, I just my grandmother's 90th birthday, so I was going to go home, and it's fine. I'll cancel it. It's...
Margaret is very satisfied with her always-on-call assistant. But as a senior executive, she has to treat everyone equally. Even the deputy editor isn't immune. When he made a mistake, Margaret showed no mercy. She declared that Bob had a poor work ethic and fired him on the spot. Before Bob could even react, Margaret had already walked away with her head held high. Her arrogance hit a nerve. Bob stormed out in a rage, shouting down the hall. He cursed her heart of stone and said she'd be abandoned by love, but Margaret calmly responded.
Listen carefully, Bob. I didn't fire you because I feel threatened. No, I fired you because you're lazy, entitled, incompetent, and you spend more time cheating on your wife than you do in your office. And if you say another word, Andrew here is going to have you thrown out on your ass, okay?
Her sharp, well-reasoned reply left Bob speechless. In the office, Margaret is known for her harsh and controlling nature. This is how every employee describes her. Her strict style is hard for others to accept, but because her work is flawless, the boss always turns a blind eye. But this time, Margaret made a serious mistake. So buried in work, she forgot to renew her visa. Now it had expired, and the immigration department decided to deport her. To Margaret, this was a total shock. Even worse, the board decided that once she was deported, her position would go to the man she just fired, Bob.
Editor-in-chief, he is the only person in the building who has enough experience.
You cannot be serious. I beg of
Margaret,
you. I beg.
we are desperate to have you stay.
At this exact moment, Andrew unexpectedly walked into the office. Looking at him, Margaret came up with a bold idea.
And there's, well, I think there's something that you should know. We're getting married. We are getting married.
Who is getting married?
You and I are getting married.
We are.
Getting married.
We're getting married.
Yes.
Though her boss was stunned, he still congratulated her. If she and Andrew could get legally married quickly, she could get a new status and stay in the U.S. Without giving Andrew any chance to respond, Margaret dragged him back into her office.
I'm not going to marry you.
Sure you are. Bob is going to fire you the second I'm gone. Guaranteed. That means you're out on the street alone looking for a job. That means all the time that we spent together, all the lattes, all the canceled dates, all the midnight Tampax runs were all for nothing, and all your dreams of being an editor are gone.
Andrew froze in disbelief. He's not interested in this woman, but the thought of losing the job he slaved over for 3 years forces him to agree. Once the legal waiting period ended, they could get divorced immediately. Next, they went to the immigration office to register their marriage, but the officer instantly noticed something was off. He warned them, if their marriage was only for a green card, it would be a serious crime. They could face 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Andrew got visibly nervous, but Margaret stayed calm. She claims they're visiting Andrew's hometown this weekend for his grandmother's 90th birthday and to announce their engagement. After a brief moment of tension, Andrew gathered his courage and made up a romantic love story. He said that after working late nights together so often, he gradually fell hopelessly in love with Margaret. Although they barely passed the interview, the officer still warned them that in 1 week, he would question them separately about the details of their relationship, and if there were any inconsistencies, they could face prison time. Leaving the immigration office, Andrew felt completely thrown off balance. He believed he was taking on too much risk and deserved something in return, so he made new demands. Not only did he want Margaret's help publishing his book, he also wanted a promotion.
Promote you to editor? No.
Then I quit, and you're screwed. Bye-bye, Margaret.
Faced with the situation, Margaret had no choice but to compromise. She promised that as soon as she got her green card, she would immediately give Andrew a promotion. However, Andrew felt that Margaret's attitude seemed rather half-hearted, so he demanded that she show more sincerity.
Ask me nicely.
Ask me nicely what?
Ask me nicely to marry you, Margaret.
Surprisingly, the once high and mighty editor-in-chief actually had to lower her proud head for the sake of a green card.
Sweet Andrew,
I'm listening.
would you please, cherries on top, marry me?
This turn of events finally gave Andrew a sense of triumph he'd long been waiting for. Soon after, Margaret accompanied Andrew on a flight to his hometown. On the plane, Margaret openly mocked Andrew's family background and firmly insisted that after they got married, they would have to live in her house.
And why wouldn't we stay at mine?
Because I live at Central Park West. And you probably live at some squalid little studio apartment with stacks of yellow penguin classics.
But Andrew remained calm in the face of Margaret's sarcasm. After 3 years of working closely together, he was already used to her personality. Still, Margaret was starting to feel uneasy. She had no idea how to face Andrew's relatives. The plane landed quickly, and Andrew's grandmother was already waiting by the fence. As soon as they arrived, Andrew's mother gave Margaret a warm welcome. The group then drove through winding mountain roads until they finally arrived at a small town. But soon something odd caught Margaret's eye. The shop names in the area all started with Andrew's last name.
Please, don't do that.
Didn't tell me about all the family businesses, honey.
He was probably just being modest.
But this was just the beginning. What followed was even more surprising. Perhaps because he was back on his own turf, Andrew no longer spoke to Margaret in a submissive tone. Instead, he quietly watched as she struggled to adjust. Yet when he saw the nervous look on Margaret's face as she came downstairs, he still reached out to help. Soon they boarded a yacht, but Margaret couldn't shake the doubt in her heart. Was this really the way to Andrew's home? As her gaze passed a massive rock wall, a towering castle suddenly came into view. Margaret's suspicions were finally confirmed. Compared to Andrew, the hidden rich kid, she was just a hardworking employee trying to get by. To welcome their son back after 3 years away, the family had prepared an elaborate feast. It was also the first time Margaret met Andrew's father, Joe. Joe was always very serious, and he strongly disapproved of his son's decision to work a regular job, his tone dripping with sarcasm. But Andrew was already used to it. During the party, Andrew announced that he and Margaret were getting married. Amid the cheers, the crowd playfully demanded the couple share a kiss. To avoid exposing the truth, they had no choice but to go along with it. What Andrew didn't know was that it was actually Margaret's first kiss. And in that slightly tipsy atmosphere, both of them felt a stir in their hearts they hadn't expected. As night fell, Andrew's mom thoughtfully arranged a quiet room for the two of them to spend the night together. Margaret, though feeling awkward in front of Andrew's family, didn't show any sign of rejection. After the family left, Andrew laid a blanket on the floor for himself. Sharing a room with his boss for the first time, Andrew's mind was a tangled mess, and Margaret, equally uneasy, couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard she tried. At dawn the next day, Margaret was awakened by the urgent ringing of her phone. Afraid of waking Andrew, she stepped out quietly into the yard, but she forgot to close the door behind her. Just then, a very expensive dog slipped out and began barking at Margaret nonstop. Suddenly, a hawk swooped down from the sky and snatched the little dog away in an instant. Still on the phone, Margaret chased after it, and in a panic, she threw her phone to scare the hawk and managed to save the dog. But the hawk wasn't done yet. It now had its eyes on Margaret's phone. Before she could react, the hawk grabbed the phone and flew off.
No, take the doggy, take the doggy. I need that phone, take the dog.
Andrew's family, watching from afar, misunderstood the scene, thinking Margaret was simply playing with the dog, and they labeled her a pet lover. Even Andrew was surprised. He never knew Margaret had such a soft and lovable side. Margaret gently explained the truth to Andrew, but Andrew was still half convinced.
Serious, he's got my phone and Frank's calling me on that phone.
Seeing this, he told Margaret that tomorrow, the family would take her to town so she could buy a new phone. Under the watchful eyes of the family, Andrew and Margaret once again played the part of a loving couple.
Yeah. If you touch my ass one more time, I will cut your balls off in your sleep. Okay? Yeah, there you go. Such a good fiance.
Later, Joe pulled Andrew aside for a heartfelt conversation. He apologized for his words the day before, and since his son was about to get married, he felt it was right to offer his blessing. However, Joe also honestly expressed his hope that Andrew would stay in the hometown and take over the family business. Yet even this conversation didn't bridge the gap between father and son. Not long after they returned home, everyone witnessed Andrew's sudden outburst. Grace, knowing her son's temper well, immediately understood that it was all because of her husband, so she quickly went to confront him. Sensing that this was a family matter, Margaret politely excused herself and walked away.
He's my son. I only get to see him every 3 years because of you.
You are gonna fix this, Joe. I mean it. Fix it now.
Seeing his wife upset, Joe looked annoyed but didn't dare say anything. Margaret returned to the room to take a shower, but Andrew, wearing headphones, didn't notice she was there. Living under the same roof, these little awkward moments were bound to happen. As night fell, the lingering awkwardness still hung in the air, but something had quietly changed between them. The distance and tension that once defined their relationship had slowly been replaced by a deeper kind of kindness. Margaret slowly shed her tough exterior and revealed the softest, most genuine part of herself. She confided in Andrew about her love for light-hearted variety shows, her obsession with overly dramatic romance novels, and even brought up their first kiss.
You are there?
I'm here.
Margaret gradually opened her heart, sharing how she truly felt when Bob had called her a wicked witch. Though she appeared strong on the outside at the time, she had actually been deeply hurt inside, and every time something like that happened, she would quietly cry in the bathroom.
You are a very, very beautiful woman.
Little by little, a painful chapter of her past began to unfold. Margaret lost both her parents when she was just 16, and ever since then, flowers had become a source of pain for her, because whenever she saw them, her mind would instantly go back to her parents' funeral. In the warmth of mutual respect and understanding, their conversation turned a new page. Bathed in the glow of the fireplace, their hearts found resonance through countless moments of connection, and before they knew it, the seed of love had quietly taken root. The next morning, just as the sun began to rise, a loud knock suddenly broke the silence. To avoid blowing their cover, Margaret quickly signaled Andrew to get into bed. Thankfully, they weren't found out. But to their surprise, Andrew's parents announced they were planning to hold a grand wedding for them the next day, combined with Grandma's birthday celebration. The news hit Margaret and Andrew like a bolt from the blue. They tried to come up with excuses to get out of it, but Andrew's grandmother rushed out, her voice trembling as she expressed her heartfelt wish to witness her grandson's wedding before the end of her life. Faced with such deep expectation, Margaret and Andrew had no choice but to go along with it, but Andrew felt deeply conflicted. He was terrified this fake wedding might be exposed, which would break his grandmother's and mother's hearts. Margaret, though outwardly calm and composed, was in turmoil inside. She kept reminding herself that this was just a deal, but deep down, she had already fallen for Andrew. Soon, Grace and Andrew's grandmother took Margaret to their family's bridal boutique. Among their treasured heirlooms, they chose a vintage wedding gown for Margaret. Seeing her future daughter-in-law in that dress brought tears to Grace's eyes. Witnessing this, Margaret's heart grew heavier. She felt guilty for deceiving such sincere expectations. Then, Andrew's grandmother brought out a family heirloom and gently told Margaret that it was a gift from her great-grandfather, passed down for over 150 years, and now it was hers to keep. Overwhelmed by such a precious gift, Margaret didn't know what to do. She was deeply moved by the warmth of this family, and tears welled up in her eyes. At the same time, an overwhelming sense of guilt rose within her. Immediately after, Margaret found Andrew and started up the yacht. During these days at Andrew's home, Margaret had experienced a different kind of love, the love of family. Her heart was filled with both joy and unease. She feared all of this warmth was just temporary, like a beautiful dream about to end at any moment. And she knew this dream, built on a fake marriage, was bound to collapse eventually. Sensing Margaret's emotional turmoil, Andrew quickly took the helm. But just then, a buoy suddenly appeared in front of them. Andrew swerved to avoid it and accidentally threw Margaret into the water.
Come on. Come on.
They rushed back home in a panic. Before they could catch their breath, Margaret's father called them into the warehouse. It turned out that Mr. Gilbertson from immigration had tracked them down and told Joe about Margaret and Andrew's fake marriage. In front of Joe, Mr. Gilbertson demanded the truth from Andrew, promising leniency if he confessed. But without hesitation, Andrew chose to stand by Margaret.
I've been working for Margaret Tate for 3 years. 6 months ago, we started dating. We fell in love. I asked her to marry me. She said yes. I'll see you at the wedding.
Surrounded by flowers and applause, Andrew and Margaret went ahead with the wedding as planned. Margaret walked slowly into the wedding hall, arm in arm with Grandma. But just as the officiant began the ceremony, Margaret interrupted.
But I do have something I need to say.
Margaret, can it wait till after?
In front of all the guests, Margaret bravely opened up about her past, and even more bravely, admitted the marriage was a lie. She took full responsibility.
You have a beautiful family. Don't let this come between you. This was my fault. I'm sorry.
The guests fell completely silent. The entire hall was frozen in shock. The only one smiling was Mr. Gilbertson. At that moment, Andrew felt a strange emptiness and loss. Over these past few days, he had seen the softness and vulnerability behind Margaret's strong exterior, and today, he saw her courage and sincerity with his own eyes. That's when he finally realized he had truly fallen in love with her. He didn't want her to face the consequences alone, so he ran after her without hesitation. However, his father firmly blocked Andrew's way, and just then, Andrew's grandmother suddenly had a heart attack. Everyone rushed to get her on a helicopter. Amid all the chaos, Grandma suddenly pulled off her oxygen mask.
I'm feeling much better, Sonny. No need to take us to the hospital. Take us to the airport.
But it was too late. Margaret had already boarded the flight back to New York. To make up for his mistake, Joe quickly mobilized his resources and arranged a private plane. As Margaret was packing her things, Andrew arrived at the New York office and came to her side.
3 days ago, I loathed you. I used to dream about you getting hit by a cab or poisoned.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I told you to stop talking. And we had our little adventure up in Alaska, and things started to change. Things changed when we kissed. Even when you checked me out when we were naked. But I didn't realize any of this until I was standing alone in a barn, wifeless. Now, you can imagine my disappointment when it suddenly dawned on me that the woman I love is about to be kicked out of the country. So, Margaret, marry me.